by Spurs. There's lots of things happening, lots of things going on. But we're talking Arsenal, we're talking this Jorginho transfer, which is going to be an interesting discussion. But first of all, Chris is on his way, people. He'll be here any second. But how are you doing, George?
I'm good, bro. I'm excited to talk about some stuff. I don't think we've got a chance to talk to the viewers about some of our signings and maybe dispel some myths. I know me and you had a little bit of a back and forth on the J5 link when it first came out, and we'll try to maybe dissect how he fits in. And I think that he's going to surprise a lot of people. I think fundamentally, when you have a look at our window, there's some questions that can absolutely be asked. But I think when you have a look at it, I said this one message in a group chat where, ironically, a lot of people came into the January transfer window claiming that Arsenal lacked the depth to really sustain a title challenge. And the irony on top of it was this window was entirely situated on recruiting depth. Therefore, if you were having that fear, you should be coming out of it quite happy. But I just think the emotional kind of catharsis coming out of a Mudryk, a Caicedo, has really let people change their perception about what we've got and kind of moving forward, because I think it changes things a little bit. But one thing it did confirm for me was the entire goal of Arsenal Football Club is a marquee forward and a marquee central midfielder. Regardless of what you want to say about failed attempts, and we can talk about the transfer team and their ability to get deals over the line, those are the marquee signings looking forward that the project needs to go forward. Those are the marquee signings that I think the club want to do. And then it's about making sure that you find the right person. Because again, rather pedantically, I know I've had some debates with people about what you should be doing when your bid reaches a limit that you're not willing to go to. What is the implications of that? Should it be a case of just pay the money regardless of what, and what is the impact of that mentality going forward? Because then you've got a Chelsea in this window who have set unreal precedents that, make no mistake about it, they've spent over 200 million pounds, guys. In fact, is it not 300 in total? I believe
300 million.
for Enzo,
300 million.
it was 300 million pounds. That is ridiculous.
People forget about Madueke, Badashile, these guys, Andre Santos, David Fofana. Like they've done a lot of people.
So, and some of those, we can have a chat about Chelsea's window, which we'll share a little bit down the line. I'm sure everybody's here for Arsenal, so we will stick to that for the beginning part of the video. But look, I just think when you've got somebody doing unprecedented values right now, it kind of skews your perception about what's acceptable at the end of the day. And I've always been a person of a fan of value, and I remember coming on the channel prior, preaching before the accident, that listen, this window wouldn't have value, and I think that we should be looking to secure defensive depth, and that would be it from a perspective of Arsenal. And we did more than that by recruiting Trossard, which is a very astute signing, by the way. I think he's going to perform a lot better than people think. And he's already shown in his cameos how important he can be. But I think we've done those things. So for me, I've done 100% what I needed to see in the January transfer window. And I think it sets us up beautifully for the summer in terms of focusing on just getting the marquees. I don't think we need necessarily now, with Jorginho recruited and what's on a 1.5-year deal. And we'll talk about each individual deal, I'm sure, in detail a little bit sooner. But we've got the depth, arguably, in the squad that we really need. So fundamentally, you've saved your powder. You haven't really expended your budget. And we're going to be focused on those marquees. So I'm really excited to kind of talk about the players we've signed, their strengths, their weaknesses, where they fit in, and then maybe have a debate, Curran, because I definitely think me and you have different perspectives on finances, just in general, about whether or not things should be pushed. So maybe we can do that towards the end after we give everybody the nuts and bolts scouting wise on each player.
But yeah, I mean, we'll have that a bit later. The main thing is for me is I just feel like when it gets to the point, I mean, we'll get into it later, but the main point for me is I feel like when we get late into deals, we seem to not want to be getting to a point where we can either secure a value deal, or we kind of just we kind of get nervous when other people get involved with deals as well. I feel like we're very good in that sort of 35 to about 60 million pound market. We do very well there. We don't do well above that. And if we do below that, it means we're scouting, we're hoovering up players that either for the future or players that are experienced that will come in and do a job short term. But I don't see the precedence for going for, especially with this regime, I don't see the precedence for going above 60 million. I feel like the Pepe deal has ruined a lot of valuations for the club, and I just feel like it's an issue where
Would
we
you not
can't
sorry,
really go.
sorry, would you not increase that value given that factually this window is the first time that we've actually bid official offers above the Pepe value market, which we did with both
That's not the case at all. We've bid above that for Lemar, for example. Like
That was
these are
before Pepe.
yeah, that was before Pepe, right?
no,
Like
but my point is bids is fine, and I understand that they're an intent of how much funds you have available. I understand that, and I understand that you're willing to do that. But I feel like when it gets to the point where you can't go either meet, I don't feel like we understand how to meet valuations or negotiate valuations. I don't feel like we have that stance, especially at the higher end of the market. I feel like
I've got an idea. Why don't we have the debate now, and then we'll talk into the specifics players because we
sure,
kind of already opened it. So let's have the debate now because here, let me set up the question because I have the one thing I agree with is with Alistair here, and I've said this before. I don't agree with the approach that we make in Windows. So when there is a point for me, Mudryk individually and as well as Caicedo reach points of no return far earlier than mine was. Now, does mine have to line up with the club? No. But fundamentally, we are a team that have been willing to walk away from deals because if we don't consider them value, we will not expunge ourselves and overextend ourselves because we know that it will impact budgets down the line. The one thing that I want to set up as a question, and I'll ask to the both of you, is because when people say that we don't have an ability to complete 75 million pound deals, I would argue we don't really have an ability to compete 100 million pound deals or 90 million pound deals because that was done with Mudryk and that was done with Caicedo. It wasn't 75 million, it wasn't 85 million, it was 90 to 100 million pounds. That was the mark of what those teams were demanding. And so we don't have a capacity to do that for those players. Do we have a capacity to do that in general? That's where I disagree ultimately. And I think is the question mainly, are you willing to overextend yourself for prospects? Because again, I think it's very different bidding 80 to 90 million pounds on a player that hasn't achieved 50 appearances in a top 5 league versus say a Declan Rice or a Rafael Leao, a Victor Osimhen, somebody that you can guarantee has played and is a top 3 player in their position. So I guess I'll frame the question and I'll ask to both of you because, again, people are doing this thing about missing first team targets, and I think it's a little bit black and white here, and they're missing a lot of context. Are you okay with setting a financial line knowing that it impacts your budget down the line? Because we've seen that with United. We've seen teams overextend, and Chelsea will see this as well. In the next couple of windows, they won't be able to spend as much as they have spent. So spending like this does impact your budget. Are you willing to overextend on players and break that precedent and essentially allow for that narrative to run where clubs will now be expecting you to pay full value, right? You will lose that negotiating power. Or would you rather take a financial limit, not extend above it, and then go and pivot to a more financially stable solution the next summer? That seems to be the question between fans for me. Because I think right now to say that we don't have ability to compete in big deals isn't fair because all the deals that we've done, we've lost out on to a team refusing to sell, period. We put a huge deal. And I don't know if people understand necessarily the entire finances between a 75 million pound guaranteed fee. But guys, that's an insane commitment. That is a much better deal than even the Enzo Fernandez deal is a lot less financial impact than the Caicedo deal would have been in your first year. And it's not about total value spent because when you spend a transfer fee, it's about amortization values. It's about what is your upfront payment? What is the financial commitment that you're going to be doing across multiple years, across 1 year? All these things are very, very different. So when you start to group the black and white context of the big guys and you don't include the amortization comparison and what we were willing to spend on other people, that's where I don't understand the black and white line. That's for me is where I don't understand because would 90 million on Caicedo mean no Rice? Are people prepared for that conversation? Because that is what would happen to Arsenal Football Club. Would that happen to Chelsea, who has just spent a record 300 million pounds? No, but they're the only club in world football that could be a valid comparison to that. There's no other club in world football that could do that. So I guess my question is, do you guys agree with this idea of having a line of value or not? Should we become Chelsea and pay the money, period? Because that's
You go first, Chris, because I have a lot to say.
Yeah, because for me, like with this Caicedo deal, obviously we offered like 75 mil up front, something like that, which is insane for them. Well, they didn't accept it. They wanted 90 on. Well, their stance was they weren't gonna sell unless they got a monstrous bid like a 90 mil. For me, he's not worth the 90 mil. You shouldn't really pay over the odds like that. Chelsea didn't really. Chelsea, it looks like they paid over the odds, but they just matched the what the teams wanted, but they themselves had limits on what they would spend with Enzo Fernandez, for example. Even though he's a British record, they still took some time with the deal because there was a limit on what Chelsea were willing to spend. So even if we become Chelsea, the same thing would have happened with Caicedo because Chelsea tried to get a deal with Brighton, and even they weren't willing to pay what Brighton wanted. So if Chelsea weren't willing to pay Brighton and we become Chelsea, we wouldn't have got the Caicedo deal done anyways. And obviously, Modric 100 mil, I don't think he's worth that. Paying João Felix his full contract and a fee on top of that, I don't think it's worth that either. So if we become Chelsea, we do deals which, in my opinion, and the club's opinions, aren't worth it. And you're going around meeting what every single team wants exactly. And when you do that, like you don't really give yourself much leeway in future negotiations. So I do think we will be able to do a £100 million deal soon, but it's about who. Because if you make Caicedo your 90 mil signing, your first ever.
Who again, sorry, Chris, just to interject, is a prospect with less than 50 appearances in a top 5 league. I really think that's a very important point when you're talking.
That's what I was going to do. That's what I was going to go on to. Like, it's really about who you make, because Mudryk is now one of Chelsea's record signings, along with Lukaku. But if you make Caicedo your record signing, one, it probably makes the rise still a bit harder to do if you want to do it, because you've already shown that you're willing to spend 80 mil up front, pretty much, which is what they wanted, 80, 90 mil up front. And then with Rice, what would you have spent? Like, what lengths are you willing to go to? Because if you spent this 90 in January, in the summer, when you're potential champions, say we finish second or win the league and then win the Europa League, you've won something in Europe where you can't not go back to the money that we used to ask for. And when you do that, then there's no going back. Like, Chelsea have already set their level and they can't go back to doing, like, trying to negotiate down deals. But what they have done is pay deals in a way and create contracts where, like, I'm hearing Enzo's contract till 2030. So they've got around it in those ways, but you won't really be able to go back down to spending the 60s, because even Ben White was overpaying at 50 mil. So imagine you go overpay to the exact same club for 90 mil. I think it'll be very hard to go to West Ham and try to bring the deal down when you spent more on someone in the exact same position. So I don't think we should be Chelsea if we do operate in the market like that.
I think for me, the main thing is, and I agree with all you've said. I don't think either deal that Chelsea have hijacked us on, I don't think they're worth it. Especially Felix, I feel like with the squad they have and the way they've built this squad, I just don't know where Felix fits in, especially if you're bringing in a Mudryk who plays off the left. Is Felix going to be that false nine? I don't know. I don't know. Especially with the way he started, he's played a half and he got a red card, which obviously they can't foresee. But I just don't know where that guy fits in, especially if Havertz is staying. Alba seems to be staying. They have the nines, they have the left wings. He's a second striker that in a team with Havertz as well, who's also a second striker. It's a very strange deal. Look, the main thing is for me, and this is where I disagree. I don't want to be Chelsea. I don't want to be Chelsea at all. I don't want to be overpaying. I don't want to be doing these things. I want to find value in the market and look at things, especially with a level head, and not turn into a club where we literally keep doing ourselves out of working ourselves out of deals because we're not willing to sustain the spending that we have in the past. I don't want to do that. What I want is an indication and a precedent set where we can say, look, for a special talent, I want to be able to say I can spend 90 million. So my whole thing is I just want to see us get one of these deals over the line. That's it. And that's the main thing for me.
For that type of player, Curran, though. So like
Rice is a perfect example. 24, homegrown, top 3 in his position. Exactly that. If you can get me Rice over the line in the summer, I have no problems. The other thing I have a problem with is I know we've heard time and again these contracts are closed, these contracts are closed, these contracts are closed. These need to be tied down. I'm not saying, oh, we're going to lose them, we're going to lose everything, everything's down, going to hell. All I'm asking for is reasonable, tangible things that we can say, okay, contracts are done. We've got the marquee 6 that we need. We've got a precedent set where we will show for an exception or a reasonable talent, we will go the extra mile, but we weren't in this. And that's why I'm not that upset about this window. If you look up earlier today, I said it was a 7 out of 10 window because I think it's a 7 out of 10 window because it addresses the issues in that we had in the squad. It brings in talents at the right profile, and it brings in, I think, in Kiwior, a guy that can contribute in multiple positions on that left-hand side. And we'll get into those later. But these are things I asked for. And I'm not saying that I'm disgusted with this window. It's crap. But my whole thing is if you identify targets, you should have an ability to walk away. I said to you when we did the Modric thing, you both remember this. You can go back and check. I said this to both of you. We should have walked away at 60. There was no reason to keep going after 60. It was wasting time. We were going overboard for no reason.
Yeah, we'll talk about individual deals. We'll talk about individual deals, but again, the mentality that I guess I come from is I had a much lower valuation, and I think you agree. You had the same thing with Mudryk than the club did. They must have had a different upper limit, but we had the same mentality. Both the club and as fans, even if we had different values about where our walk away point was, we all agree we should walk away. And I just want to confirm, like, are you?
Yes, 100%. I'm not mad about the deals that we walked away from. I'm not. What I am worried about is we're setting a precedent in the market where we go up and go up and go up and go up and walk away. That's what I'm worried about because we've set a precedent in this window twice now that we're willing to get up to a certain point. And let me be clear, for both those prices, those are bad deals. For £88 million for Mudryk and for £90 million for Caicedo, vast overpayments. But my thing is if you can't meet these valuations, don't go into deals. Get a price and negotiate. Don't just go into deals and be like, okay, we're gonna do 2 bids, 3 bids, 5 million, 5 million, 5 million, and then get.
Okay, so that's the last part. I was disagreeing with everything into the last part because for me, I have been very frustrated with the approach that we did. So the increase in the bid structure, I don't think was aggressive enough from Arsenal if you truly wanted the player. That's where I understand a lot of the frustration from fans. However, this idea that the price keeps going up, that's going to be circumstance based on every transfer. We did the same with Lisandro Martinez. We did the same with Vlahovic. We've done the same, not just this window, but we've been doing it for the last 18 months. And that's really what's gotten us in this position, really. So I'm not upset at that. I would be upset with the aggressiveness of the bids. I really am understanding of that with fans because I don't think the approach is right there. I think we could have been a lot more aggressive if your upper limit was higher than me and yours, Curran, let's say, or Chris's, or whatever that upper limit is. If we all agree that we should be walking away from certain deals and that's okay, then you should be a little bit more aggressive if your upper limit is higher. That's what I'll concede and I'll agree with.
No, but the main thing I'm going to reiterate is that when you have a valuation of a player, right, if it's not reasonable If the deal is not reasonable, do not enter the deal. If you guys are looking, we were meant to be looking at these windows as it's a January window. We're looking at market opportunities here. You should be looking. We're not looking for marquees. The only team that's done that is Chelsea. This isn't a marquee window. This is a place to maybe vacuum up some talent. Even Fresneda, for example, we should have got done. I think that would have been a good transfer. That kind of deal. I don't think we're looking for game changers.
Well, to be fair, mate, we did do that kind of deal 3 times, right? Like, I don't want to say that the club didn't do that deal because they did extract value and they did do that type of deal. But I want to answer the question and wrap it up because we should be getting into the individual transfers. But fundamentally, when people are just say pay or walk away or make these hard and black white lines on transfers, it really never is the case. And I do grow frustrated because what it does is it removes context and nuance to every single situation. And it's not that simple because fundamentally, if the club believed and they got indications from a player that they would be willing to move and they could upstart a project, why not go for that player? I don't think you should criticize a club for doing that. What you should criticize is maybe the approach. I'm with fans on that. The amount of increases in the bids was shambolic. I don't really agree with it. However, if you've got indications from Caicedo, who handed in a transfer request, I've never seen a public transfer request as public as that.
There hasn't been one. No,
there hasn't been one. So from an idea that the club didn't get any indication from the player, that's just not true.
I didn't say that, George.
No, I'm not saying you did. I'm answering other people in the comments that have a different opinion about walking away or not. I don't think that's fair. You absolutely should be pursuing the best talent if you get an indication that he wants to come. If he overspends your value factor, your limit, whatever that number is, you shouldn't be pressed into just paying it just because you want a player for the here and now. You shouldn't abandon your budget.
Do you not think that the first bid for Caicedo was at a value that we shouldn't have been paying in the first place?
That's my value, not the club's value. So I can't sit there and criticize.
No, I'm just talking. I'm not talking about from the club. I'm talking about me and you and Chris as well. I'll ask both of you. Like, do you not think the first valuation that would have been my final bid for Caicedo?
Yeah, that was my upper limit.
That was my upper limit.
I probably would have gone to 75 ultimately for it. You could have twisted my arm for that, but it was already approaching values that I was not okay with. So
yeah, me neither. And we'll talk about the squad building later on. But Chris, me and George have been arguing like old men for the last 10 minutes. What do you think? What are you looking at it from a perspective where we need to walk away sooner or more aggressive? What are your thoughts?
No, I think you just bid until you see no end. Like that's literally what I think. You could even make 10 bids is silly, but if you make 10 bids and get someone on the 10th bid,
3 bids for Douglas Luiz in the same day, like it can be done.
I'm saying if you make 10 bids and then get someone on the 10th bid, no one's gonna complain that you made 10 bids. So I think you just go up to a level where you don't see like to the like upper limit, because 75 mil up front for any player, let alone someone who's made 26 starts, is insane. And when you do make that bid and it's rejected, like what do people want? 80 mil up front, then 90. Like for me, 75 up front and then walk away. Like I just thought that's what made me like a bit more comfortable with the Jorginho signing, because that limit, like having that limit and then saying no and walking away to something that quickly and on the last day, obviously, like I can't really complain. That to me seems like they really tried. And for me, just keep bidding. Like I don't care how many bids they make.
I don't think it reached to desperation, because if it reached to desperation, I think you would be looking at people were overpaying. I think we would have overpaid if we were in a desperate situation. I don't think we're in a deficit. We're in a very strong position in terms of our squad and the first 11. I think we all went into this thinking this was a depth window because we needed depth.
We wouldn't have gone for Caicedo if Elneny doesn't get a long-term injury. So.
Exactly.
Yeah, and you know what? I think that's a good segue, guys. I want to answer the question because I kind of posed it and I argued a bit, but I haven't got my opinion. Fundamentally, when you're going to make a statement signing, the £100 million signing, you guys in the comments pick that superstar number that you think would give you peace of mind that Arsenal can compete at the superstar level. There are a couple things that you need to guarantee when you pay that kind of money. Okay. Number one, they have to be the top 3 players in their position. I am very firm on that. If they are not that person and they are a prospect with less than 50 appearances in the league, you set a very dangerous precedent because you don't know how that project is going to turn out. So they must be at that level when you pay that kind of money for a player. Next, they must be able to offer you 2 contract cycles. Caicedo and Mudryk, to be fair, would have satisfied that. For me, when you buy a player at the £100 million mark, you absolutely need to have at least 2 contract cycles, so almost 8 years of sample for you to play with that player with. Now, again, the last little bit is they have to be versatile to me. They can't be an isolated profile. I don't like spending, for example, on Enzo Fernandez. I don't really want to talk too much on that. A player I know very well, having kept on
8-year contract.
recommending, an 8-year contract on somebody that is very limited, by the way. I know him quite well with Marcelo Gallardo, who everyone knows is one of my favorite coaches. But that is somebody that isn't necessarily versatile to multiple positions. And so that is something that I worry on. Now, I think Mudryk is slightly very isolated to a particular profile, but Caicedo was a versatile player. So he was very close to being a player that hits my marks. And the only limit was him not really having the experience to be top 3 in his position in the world right now. Do I think he won't get there? I don't know. I really like his potential. I think he could have been there. It's why I was very lenient on even having a 75 mil valuation on him to begin with. But fundamentally, you need to have those 3 criteria to really even entertain £100 million bids or anything around that point. So when you start looking at a Declan Rice and we talk about it, 24 years old, he'll have 2 contract cycles. He's versatile to multiple positions, multiple areas. He's undisputed top 3 in his position in the league. These things aren't questionable. So when you do overspend and when you do spend those big bucks and you remove your budgets for the future, you guarantee it because it's on a sure thing. One thing that I wasn't sure on is setting the precedent on that for a prospect. So that's the big thing for me. But look, guys, I think we should absolutely be transitioning into individual people, and then we can talk about the broad transfer window in general. First one, Trossard. That is a signing that I don't think we've had an opportunity to talk about. One that I'm very excited about. I really pushed back on people saying that he wouldn't have a great impact or that it was a panic buy or whatnot. I thought that was a very astute signing. £21 million rising to £26 million from Brighton. Again, I think this is a guy that is very, very good. He is extremely efficient in the final third. I talked about his ball usage, and I really talked about how he gave us a different option at left wing to go both in and out, but also has a really good horizontal agility. This guy is somebody with a really quick hop. He's somebody that's very smart in the box, arguably our best finisher in the box already in the team. He's got versatility to a false 9 option, of course, the left wing, but he's also got an opportunity to play right too. We have seen that before. What do you guys think of the Trossard signing and in general? Because I think we just secured our wing depth for the next three years, really, minimum. I think he's on a 4-year deal as well. Someone quote me if I'm wrong, but
I think it's 3, but in either way, look, the main thing for me is it gives you depth across the front line. I think that's a great thing. Obviously, his ability in tight spaces is, as we saw against Man City, was quite good. I think he's very good in tight spaces. He has the ability to work on the inside and the out. I think he'll be more comfortable, as George mentioned to me off stream, with the pod with Kieran Tierney. I think that's a great point to make. The main thing for me is I feel like it gives us flexibility in the front line. And if players do go down, say we lose one of the front signings, we can slot him in anywhere. He works well on the inside. He's very good in terms of, attacking the box from that sort of left half space zone. He's very good in terms of being able to break down low blocks. His ability inside the box, so basically his close control and his finishing is very good. So a lot of positives. One thing I'm going to make clear, because I think people misconstrued what I was trying to say on Twitter, because it's just I think it's quite funny. I said the squad building in this window reminds me of the 2019 window with Mari and Suarez coming in. And people thought I was comparing the quality of the players. I was not comparing the quality of the players. I was comparing the roles of the team, the people in the squad. The main thing for me is you're looking at depth signings that will bring rotation across different positions, which is exactly what Cedric was, and a left centre back that was meant to be sort of molded under Arteta to to basically bring a bit of depth to the squad, which is what Kiwior was. We've now got to sign Jorginho as well. We'll get into that one as well. But for me, I think the main thing in terms of Trossard is that ability in the box to just find a goal. I think his ability, we have obviously Eddie, who's a great poacher, but that ability to take the ball and sort of like beat a player, beat a man, and then get a shot off. If you watch that Liverpool hat trick, you see his ability to shift inside the box and get shots off. So I think that's a profile that we can really, really help, especially on the left, which is sort of turning into, especially when we have that Xhaka, Zinchenko, and Jesus pod. You then turn it into that left-sided winger is really pushed into the box and really pushed into getting into sort of striker zones where you're really attacking the box, and that's where Trossard will do so well.
Yeah, and look, I think Trossard makes Newcastle away not happen. I keep saying that. That's kind of been my line. And when you have a look at that, Chris, I wanted to ask you. So, what do you think Trossard gives us? Because I think me and you, and to be fair, like Kurt and you as well, like we were all supportive of the signing, but I know like we tried to defend it. There was a lot of people that weren't a fan of the Trossard signing, and for us, I guess I'll set you up here, mate, because I think he's already one of the best ball strikers in the box for us in the squad immediately. He gives you a certain level of versatility, and we've seen with the reduced form of Martinelli out on the more touchline role, because Eddie has almost changed that left wing role a little bit in how he plays the striker role. We've seen that Trossard has an ability to link play a little bit more with people. We know he's great at shifting the ball, creating space for himself, not just vertically, but horizontally as well. I think, Martinelli is somebody that's a straight line runner that always takes people on the outside. I keep telling people about that. But Trossard gives you a little bit more on the inside as well as the outside. He's perfectly capable going around and sending it across, but as well shifting it on the inside and combining a bit. What do you think Trossard gives this team, particularly maybe with that, as Curran mentioned, the Kieran Tierney revival along with Granit Xhaka deeper? We already saw that to good effect in his cameo. But what do you think of the signing?
Well, it's a bit more. Our left wing recently has been a bit more Saka, in the sense that it's been a bit more like 1v1 versus the fullback consistently. And with Martinelli, he consistently goes on the outside. He never comes inside. So it's actually much easier to predict, much easier to defend. But with Trossard, we saw versus Man City, sorry. He was able to get shots off left foot, right foot. He even created that chance for Tomiyasu. He got a shot on target himself. I think the close control is something we don't have on the left wing, apart from maybe Jesus, but he doesn't play on the left wing for us. But I think the close control with the ball striking and the ability to pin defenders, the ability to come inside, go outside, like, it's very different to Martinelli. And for me, he can just hold his own a lot better on his own, because Martinelli gets a lot of, not aid, but like interaction with Gabriel Jesus, because Nketiah doesn't really drift on the left wing and stay there, because there was periods in the games where Jesus would sit on the left wing for like 15, 20 minutes and allow Martinelli to just roam up top. And he doesn't really get that opportunity with Nketiah because they're very different type of strikers. But with Trossard, he secured the game at the end versus United just to keep the ball up the pitch. He was involved in the goal, just a quick pass like Martinelli would probably have his head down there. But yeah, he's a very different player. Cheap signing, 4.5 year deal. He's on 100 and something K a week. I think it's a very good deal. Not many players score hat tricks, and he has so far this season. Not many players you can get for that cheap off the bench that will give the consistency that I think he will. Because for me, even going into the Brighton game when we did the preview, we were very happy that Welbeck wasn't there, but I think he did a very good job at striker / false nine. Like, he held his own very well, which really surprised me. And just for him to be able to do a left wing, right wing striker for that cheap, and probably won't create a fuss if he doesn't start, I think that's a great thing for me.
Yeah, and he's made a very good contract. I think this is a great comment by Lord Gruner, especially in the sense 9 goal contributions and 16 big kind of big team matches. That's huge, guys. Like, that speaks to a player that rises to the big occasion. When we're talking about competing for the title, it's going to be those games against our top 6 rivals that really get us the difference in points, right? We all know that top 4 is about consistency of teams outside the top 6, but when you're competing for a title, you're going to need to be picking up points against your rivals for the title. And he is a player that absolutely gets us goals. He adds ball striking. So I don't know. Maybe we'll go on a quick roundtable for the entire quality of the deal. Quick out of 10, what do you give Trossard? Chris?
As the deal as a whole.
Yeah, just out of 10.
I think it's a 8 out of 10 for me.
8 out of 10. Yeah, Kurt, how about you, mate?
I mean, I would have said 8 as well. I would say, yeah, 8. I think that's a good valuation because of the value of the deal, what he brings in the short term. I think that's a very good deal.
Yeah, I'm going to go 8.5 just to be a little bit different. Why not? But no, look, I do think it's going to be slightly more because I don't think he's just depth. I really do think that he's going to be pushing Martinelli for sports. And so in that sense, I don't think it's just long-term depth that we've secured, but I think in the next year or two, he's going to be somebody that's going to be pushing a starting position. So for me, if he's able to do that, that's going to be very, very good. So yeah, I'm going to give it an 8.5. And then, of course, that will be moving on to Jakub Kiwi. I am not going to attempt the last name, especially me with my track record.
If you just add an O at the end of your thing, it just would be fine.
I'm going to call him a Kiwi. So we've got the fruit. Great for you. Look, guys, this is a player that I'm not going to act like I've done a ton of research on, but I've definitely watched a couple games. And when you have a look at it, 22-year-old center back that has extreme versatility. Back in the Slovakian league, he was a left wing back, and then he got moved into recruiting under Thiago Motta at Spezia in Serie A. He played a season at DM, and then a couple times now he's played as center back. And, center back was always something that he's been touted for, especially everybody knows him in the international team at being a center back. They had that really famous Lewandowski quote about who the heck is that person. And then he found out real quickly who he was. But look, for me, we've been wanting to have a left-footed Gabriel competition for a while. Everybody on this channel knows I've been a big fan of Evan and Ndicka, particularly for the price at a potential free. But this is a player that I really like the potential of, a really pacey, tall center back as well, really strong in duels. I really think he's somebody that's very mobile, and I love the way he creates separation in the final third. He's somebody that I think can really shape the ball well, and on his day create 5 yards through just his sheer technique in how he receives the ball, which is very different to Gabriel. I do think he's got an excellent range of long pass as well. Jakub has a very good short passing range, but I think really it's his long passing that's really special. And I think it's slightly different to Gabriel because he does at times struggle between the lines. Gabriel is going to be a little bit better than that, but right now Jakub, you can really tell he's got such good accuracy and power in those long field switches out to Saka, to the wingers. I can just see that being a really great ping. When you have a look at it, I think fundamentally the amount of power that he gets, it's just the technique that he gets on it. It's not chipped. It's really struck clean through. And so I think that's
through it very well.
Yes. It's got a great technique. It's not that golf chip. He strikes really through it. So I'm in love with the deal. 22 million pounds, another great find. He was somebody that was really touted in Serie A to maybe move to Juventus or one of the big clubs. He was winning a lot of plaudits down there.
And AC Milan.
Yep, and AC Milan. So I'm going to go to you guys. That's kind of my thoughts a little bit. I think one thing he does have to work on, I'll be honest with you guys, is I think that he does have a tendency to go to ground, but he only goes to ground when he knows that he's going to win it. It isn't a Mustafi case. He has actually very good for me in defending in isolation. The one thing that I think he actually does need to work on a little bit is when he does step into midfield, I think the pass selection can be a little bit erratic. He's very good covering off the ball and maybe covering spaces, but for me, the short and the medium range pass, particularly feeding people between the lines, he needs to be a little bit more cute with that. Increase the technique a little bit. But other than that, excellent running power. Not the quickest, by the way. His turning radius is a little bit slow, but when he does get going, extremely quick. And his mentor is Sergio Ramos, of course. But I'm going to go to you guys. Chris, what did you make of the Kiwi signing?
I think it's just very similar to Tomiyasu at left centre back because I watched a lot of his games at left centre back, obviously by accident, but he really liked to step into midfield, a long switch to the right wing. He was very consistent with it. He did need to improve on disguising his passes between the lines. It's something Gabriel has gotten better at. But our left centre back always, whenever we play with Saliba or White, will always have time on the ball, so he'll always have time to pick a pass. So his decision making does need to improve. Yeah, sometimes I think he can be over aggressive when stepping into midfield. I don't think I've watched him enough to be so sure on what he does, but I think sometimes he can be over aggressive. But yeah, I think it's a very good signing, a cheap one that can play left back, left centre back, DM, wing back. He can, when we do step into sometimes, because if like versus Fulham, for example, when the game was when we needed to win it in like the 87th minute also, we played with two centre backs and everybody moved up the field in like a 2-3-5 or 2-4-4 sometimes. And when we have that in transition, I think I can really trust him 1v1, especially out wide in the wide channel. But yeah, I just think it's a very good sign. Holding will play less probably. Gabriel can actually rest in Europa, and we actually have a proper backup who can again contest for the starting spot. I don't think his ceiling's as high as Gabriel's, but a player with that base can definitely contest the start.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, Curran, we're going to go to you because I am somebody that doesn't like narratives except when it suits me. And being from, a Slovakia league, I just love that. I think he is the typical, for me, Slovakian defender style. He's very aggressive in the challenge. Like, you can just tell he's got elbows up kind of mentality. Like, he is there for a fight. And so, when you have a look at it, and especially what his ability is in the final third, like, I don't think you're going to be getting necessarily the Ben White overlap. He's got good running power, but the biggest difference between him and maybe Ben White is his ability to create separation from a standstill. He's got really good ability to kind of shift it out of his feet and send it across. What did you make of the signing just in general? And kind of going forward, sleeper signing, again, 22 million pounds, great deal, great wages, and versatile. Anything not to like?
I mean, the main thing for me, I've only seen, I think, three halves. I think 3 and a bit halves of him, so about 100 minutes or so. The main thing that came out to me is I watched one game at DM and one game at left centre back, and the main thing that I saw is his ability in wide to slow people down in wide areas. He's not able to, not able. He's not. He's willing to. He's good at standing his man up, basically. Like, he's good at making sure that he's not beat, especially in the channels. I think that's one of his strengths. I think he, as you mentioned, he's very aggressive, which we need in that left centre back. So it's an issue that I think we've needed to sort out because we've had to play Gabriel in the Europa League. This window for me in general has been one that has confirmed to me that we're taking the Europa League seriously. I think that's the main takeaway from this. And this signing is the epitome of that, because it shows an ability to produce another left-footed, left-sided centre back that can play in multiple positions, that we can fit in anywhere. And especially in that Europa League team, if you want, say, you don't want to play a Xhaka, for example, you can play him at left centre mid. You can make that pivot with a Jorginho or a Partey, and you can play that sort of play a pivot, and he can slot in well. If we don't want to if Tierney gets injured or Zinchenko gets injured, we can play him at left back. This is a guy that's very versatile. Chris mentioned about the whole Tomiyasu situation. About he reminds me of Tomiyasu at left centre back. I think the signing in general was a very Tomiyasu signing from Serie A, 15 to 20 million pounds. A very versatile defender, but this time on the left. We've had one on the right. We've got one on the left now. I feel like this is very much a left-sided Tomiyasu type deal. But the main thing I think I would agree with you guys on is his aggressiveness in 1v1 duels. But the one thing I wanted to add was out wide. I think he's quite good in isolation. He's not someone that's going to get beat very easily. And he does need to improve on his going to ground. I feel like he can get to a point where he kind of gives up and just decides to
I think that's because of the type of defender he is. I think he's similar to Hakimi in the sense where he likes to funnel the danger to someone to help him out or to make it easier tackle. And I think he doesn't really like Gabriel. As soon as any little opportunity comes, he's gonna bite at the tackle. Like, he will probably 9 times out of 10 bite into the tackle, and he is very different. Even though he's aggressive, I think he's aggressive to meet the man and try to close down the space, but will try and move someone closer to the byline to make him a smaller problem for the rest of the team, which is what I think is very different between them. And there's positives and negatives to both types of defending, but I think it's nice to have a difference and a balance. Because Saliba and Gabriel, they really hit hard and they always try to take the first opportunity to tackle. And sometimes it's not the best opportunity to take. So I think he's a bit more intelligent in the way he tackles, but he may not always have the pace to use his methods, I think, perfectly. But yeah I think
and look, really quick,
he's an 8 out of 10.
8 out of 10, perfect. You see exactly what I was going to ask. Okay, Curran, you too. What did you think?
Yeah, I was going to say 8.5 for this one. I think it solves a lot of issues, and for the price and the way we've done this deal, I think it's a very good deal. We mentioned before about 2 contract cycles. This is a guy that can do 2 contract cycles, and is going to be still in the prime of his career at the end of those 2 cycles. So I think for that value, to find someone that is able to be that versatile is a very good deal.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to do too much deviation, guys. I'm going to go with like an 8 out of 10. The only reason is just I don't know if he's necessarily there right away. He's a project, but that's the nature of what we bought. The only thing that could be better is if you got somebody that is an insane prospect. That's the only way you beat this deal. And even then, I don't know if you do, because the quality of the
and the money you spend,
the money you spend would be.
That's why I gave it 8.5 for 17.5 base rising to 22.
It's incredible.
It's an incredible value,
and it's incredible scouting as well. It's just smart scouting, and this is why, like, I really do push back on some of the criticisms with the negotiation team, because we have shown really good things with these 2 signings that I really don't think a lot of people picked up on, and I think it was just a little bit of emotional catharsis. But I won't go down there. We already did that. So very good signing, and then lastly, look, guys, Jorginho, the big debate one. Look, it's somebody that's caused a lot of debate in the Arsenal fan base. Couple things that I really wanted to get out for questions, just to challenge some viewers a little bit. Everybody keeps telling me what happens if Thomas Partey goes down for 2 months. Everybody and their mother asked me that question. I'd like to retort.
I asked him yesterday.
Yeah. What would happen if Rodri went out for 2 months for Manchester City? Are they competing for the title with Calvin Phillips for 2 months?
Yeah.
No.
Calvin Phillips.
There's a drop off. There's a drop off.
There's a massive drop off.
Is it? You're saying there's a same drop off from Rodri to Calvin Phillips than it is from Partey to Jorginho?
I think it's very different. It's a very different, but it's not as big as what you're saying. Particularly with Jorginho, because you're talking about a player right now. That is won a lot of stuff. In terms of a DM, he's going to be changing things. He's not a Partey replacement. You would change how you play. But what you would have is a person that is excellent in the first phase. You have a person that would help you beating deep blocks and is a finisher at controlling tempo, something that we have been able to do. So I don't know if we have necessarily somebody that can close out a game in that sense. And when you have a look at it, Mohamed El-Neni was your backup to Thomas Partey. Everybody, we kind of accepted that this wasn't going to be solved in the January transfer window. Everybody did. And when he went down, the question that I keep asking is Jorginho better than Mohamed El-Neni? Yes, unequivocally. I don't know where the narrative came that he's better. And there's a lot of athleticism concerns. And as the king of athleticism, the king of PNP, I cannot sit here and lie. I'm sorry, guys. When you have a look at our team and you have a look at what this team is able to offer with 2 athletic monsters behind, athletic monsters ahead, a team that camps out, that presses 1v1, you have the best environment to hide Jorginho's flaws. There's not a better team in world football to hide Jorginho's flaws. And in fact, in a possession-based side, we saw what his ability is to do. Now let's analyze his ability. What does he give you? He's somebody that receives the ball off your center backs brilliantly. He does. He's better facing play than he is facing with his back to goal. We've seen how sometimes that can be really poor.
He can get licked. He can get licked, though.
Well, he can get licked facing his goal. When he's facing play, he really can't. He's excellent, and he finds people between the lines. He's got an excellent passing range, and he knows when to probe and when to recycle, something that we don't have in our team. So when you're trying to look at it, is he better than Mohamed El-Neni? Let's ask a couple questions, because I know I did this with Curran, but I'm going to do it for the case of the viewers as well. Is he somebody that helps you with low blocks? Absolutely. Is he somebody that helps you in your first phase? Absolutely. Is he somebody in your high line that he is able to control the tempo of a game? Absolutely. Is he somebody that can control transitions? No. Now, which of those things is Mohamed El-Neni better at than Jorginho? And which of those things do they share the same fault in? Transition control. Mohamed El Neni, if you have big spaces, he's not defending them. Like, I don't know where this notion came in. And it was just because he's quicker and stamina, which is ridiculous because Jorginho has a much better positional sense than Mohamed El Neni does. So when you're looking at it, they both share the same flaws. And if people were okay with Mohamed El Neni at the beginning of the season being the backup to Thomas Partey, then Jorginho shouldn't be an issue because he is better than Mohamed El Neni. Is he somebody that we need to move on from? Sure, but on a 1.5-year deal, guys, for £12 million, I really don't know
It's
where
only
you
12 if you win the league.
100%. And so that for me is where a lot of the questions come in. Do I love him? I don't love him. He's the antithesis to everything that, I believe in as a midfielder, generally. But I can't sit here and lie about the uses that he would bring. So for me, those are some of the uses, and I wanted to shift it over to you guys, what you guys felt in the deal. And no, I'm going to really push back. Let's not lie, guys. Look, Mohamed El Neni is not the same quality as Jorginho. Please, let's not lie on that. It's absolutely.
He's agreeing with you.
No, I know. I'm asking for the people that don't. You know the amount of people that have said that Mohamed El Neni is the same quality as Jorginho. I understand that we want to banter. It's not the case, and I really encourage people to have a look at the signing. Mikel Arteta has wanted to sign him before for very good reason, and it's not because he has no use and these people don't have use in the squad, but fundamentally, it's a shrewd deal. It's a shrewd deal. It's £12 million, a 1.5-year contract with the option for another one. I don't see why there was the meltdown. So
I think it's because Caicedo is much better. Two, because in essence you pay for the first year of Enzo. So people were looking at it like you're helping Chelsea pay for a much better player, and you're hoping them get rid of their deadwood. But for me, as I said earlier, Caicedo not being able to get down 75 mil up front and then falling back on Jorginho is not as bad as Jorginho being your primary target, which is for me like made it a less bitter pill to swallow. Like, because for me, like, as you guys know, I hate the transfers. So waking up and seeing that Caicedo was pretty much done because we offered a lump sum fee and they said no, and then Jorginho was the fallback person after like 20 minutes. I was really fan of it. He's a decent player who will look a bit better than he has this season in our system. I think he'll be much more comfortable, and in 6 months he wants to go back to Italy anyways. So there's a chance we do offload him. But yeah, he's a decent passer. I think he's much better passer off the ground than on the ground. When progressing the play, when passing forward, he's much. Anytime you see a comp of him or any quality passes of him, they're always in the air. I don't think he's as great a passer as people say he is, but I think he's comfortable in the first phase, as you said. He loves a tackle, weirdly, despite not being a strong tackler. He makes a lot of attempted tackles and does make more tackles than Partey, but just because they're, again, very different types of defenders. They don't bite the same.
I think that's a complete team environment. I mean, Chelsea right now play more in transitions, and I don't even think it's a player comparison in style.
Yeah, but I think with Jorginho, he just probably won't even play in 5 games this season. Maybe Arteta will use him a lot, and Arteta has a plan for him. But Partey's played 16 and 19 games, and the games he missed were within a 2-week period.
Do you not think he could be somebody to close out a game, particularly if you're looking at maybe?
I'm talking purely starts, like starting games. But I think, yeah, close out a game. The other, like Man City, for example, sometimes bring on a Bernardo, bring on a De Bruyne to close out the game. Someone very comfortable on the ball, very willing to play a pass, and someone who under pressure is able to sell a foul, which I think a lot of our players really aren't able to do, but he does it on a regular basis. And hopefully you guys stop linking the comps like his game versus Newcastle because it looked crap, and other comps of his. But again, he's not a beautiful player, but I think he's been very bad this season, not because Chelsea has been bad, but he himself has been bad. But he's played a lot better when he had someone like Partey next to him, and I mean someone like Kante next to him, and we do have that type of player or that type of midfielder in Partey. So next to someone like that, I think he'll be a lot better, and we will dictate games better with someone who is much more cultured. Like even with Caicedo, I thought we'd be a lot more comfortable because he isn't as aggressive as Partey. He's got a better temperament, and Partey was very vertical. Is very vertical.
Always.
But I don't think he was. I don't think he even starts 5 league games for us because I think Partey plays every single game this season because we're out of the cups apart from Europa.
No, yeah, and look, I
Barring
mean,
injury, he only comes off the bench in the league.
yeah, and fundamentally, you're going to get a lot of access. I mean, it's been coming up in the comments. He's going to be somebody that's very good for Europe with a lot of that time and space. He's got experience winning that competition. Like, I don't know why people are turning their noses up at a player for 12 million pounds. Again, guys, the only person that you're going to get, by the way, is Ibrahim Bamba was in a similar price bracket with an unknown prospect from Victoria Guimarães. So, like, I don't understand where you're going to get a similar value for the quality that you're getting. And despite maybe not understanding the profile difference, because he is a profile difference to Caicedo, Rice, Partey, but guys, he's not a long-term solution. And a lot of people talking about him being a replacement for Partey really miss the fact he's a replacement for Mohamed El-Neni. And so I think that's very key. But Curran, mate, I wanted to give you your thoughts on the deal. Hopefully I've changed them. But I mean, you were upset at the deal, right? And I know a lot of people shared your opinion.
Christ, you can't be upset. You can't be upset.
10 mil, it's only 12 if you win the league.
Yeah,
that's what I think. So to cut you off, but
I mean,
a good thing is if we win the league, then it was worth it.
Yeah, no, for me, I don't know if you remember yesterday, George. I messaged you and I was like, bro, 15 to 20 million for a guy at this age with this profile. I don't understand. I don't get it. I remember, I think the first message, J5 is becoming serious, explain it to me. That was the exact message I sent it to you. And for 20 million, I don't think I'd be able to do the stream. I'm not going to lie to you. I think there would be head loss. But for 10 million, and you're getting a guy that knows European football. He knows European football. And what do we need? We need someone that has the ability to control the tempo in European competition, which isn't as physical. It isn't as he isn't going to get roughhoused. He's not going to be so transition based. He's going to need to be able to recycle the ball, play in possession, keep the ball going, and not try to accelerate the tempo and really wear teams down. That's what he does.
Yeah.
I think the main good point you've mentioned is we have the athletes to basically control the transitions, which he can't. But his positioning is very good. He's everything I don't like as a player. He's everything I can't stand. I can't stand players that don't take responsibility in transition. I just don't like it. This is something that I don't like.
I think
I'm not gonna lie and be like, oh, it's a great. He's someone that I genuinely dislike. But
this because Curran, like me, like as somebody that gets these questions all the time, everyone tells me that I'm the PNP person. Everyone keeps telling me that, right? And how can you be a fan of something like this, knowing that you like a different profile? But guys, I would point to the contract length. This isn't a long-term move. Anybody that
no, it's not, and that's what I was going to get onto.
Yeah.
For me, look, there are certain situations. Not forget, even in the Premier League, where I think he'll do brilliantly. As we mentioned on the channel before, when we're chasing games, we like to go into this 3-3-4 situation where we're looking to basically break down blocks, and we've done against PSV. His ability to pass in and out of low blocks is good. He's very good at it. He's good at finding players in the box. You've seen assists for guys like Havertz and even I think he's gone for Alba as well. I think he's done very well in terms of breaking down a block. He'll be good at that. So if we are chasing a game, he will be someone that we can say, okay, go on, find a pass to get me a goal. Fair enough. The only thing that's causing me concern is just the ability to control the ball in the first phase with his back to goal. I think that's the main thing. if he's caught with his back to goal, we're going to have to shield him. We're going to have to shield him because his ability sometimes he doesn't see peripherally well. He's not good, scanning in possession with his back to goal. I think he tends to take a little bit too much time on the ball. He can get robbed, but if we can just control the duels that if he does lose a duel, if we can control the duels around that, I think he'll be fine.
Well, you know what? The one thing that I'd ask is, what's the transition in Thomas Partey's statistics this season versus last season? 10 times more touches, less duels, and he's somebody that right now we restrict
because we're surrounding him with athletes.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, the pressure, it'll hide him. I do want to give us the next half hour to really talk about kind of other transfers just in general, so that we're not just
can we just, before we do you want to? I want to quickly address something because I know a lot of people have been asking. The El Neni contract. If you don't see that as a move to secure value for a transfer in the summer, I have some magic beans to sell you. I think that is the main reason why we've done that. If you think that we're going to play him next season, I don't know what to tell you. It's not something that he's going to.
You know what?
If anything, if he does stay, it'll be like Cedric this year.
I'll be honest. I agree with Chris. I really do believe that Mohamed El Neni is staying. There's a possibility that Jorginho leaves as soon as this summer, going back to Italy. It's very well reported. It's what he wants to do. But alternatively, guys, I think this is Santi Cazorla 2.0. It's Arsenal giving him a rehab center. It's a human contract extension. It's not.
And I also think there's not many. I don't think there's a player in the world we could have had for this long to be this content with just being a backup for this long. Like, he could have a season where he doesn't play at all and he probably still be smiling. Probably wouldn't ask for an increase in pay.
Well, he didn't.
But the one thing
exactly, and he played with Arteta. So.
Yeah, but the thing is, the main thing we have to establish is this is not going to block future windows.
No, absolutely not. It's not. And again, I want to reiterate, I really do think
the same people that are complaining about we have 3 centre midfielders over the age of 30 are the same people that think we're not going to replace centre midfielders come the summer. You can't have it both ways, guys. You can't say that we have an aging midfield and be like, oh, we're just going to stick with them for the next 5 years. That's not how life works.
No, and again, I wanted to really reiterate, I do think this is Santi Cazorla 2.0. Like, they want to give him security to rehab at Arsenal. We did the same thing with Santi. We knew that he wasn't going to play, and we gave him another contract extension for a year. I think it's very similar. Again, for it to be a season-ending injury, guys, it's ligaments torn. It is what it is. We know it's a knee injury. And the only thing to be that long, that's over 3 months, it's not a little grade 2, it's a torn ligament. So for me, I just think that they're giving him an opportunity to really rehab. But guys, look, really quickly, let's wrap up quick out of 10 on that. And then I do want to touch on the loans with Sambi and Marquinhos, but literally for a couple minutes. Let's not debate that stuff. And then I want to talk about other stuff. But guys, Jorginho, Chris, give me your out of 10 on Jorginho.
6. 6 just because. Yes, there's no need to explain. 6 out of 10, 5 out of 10. Like, it's not really a signing that takes us any much higher, I think, or much higher, or any much lower. And he's 10 mil, and we did it in a couple hours because he was a backup to Caicedo. So 6 out of 10.
Yeah.
For me, I'm going to give him a 7 out of 10. I think that he is going to improve considerably in this system. He's going to shine a lot more in this system, and I think he's going to surprise a ton of people, particularly as a finisher to games. I really think right now people think he's going to be useless and play maybe 3 or 4 games, and I do think that he's going to prove to be very valuable, and he's going to have really good moments, and he's going to turn a couple games that we think are going to be a little bit close. And so to have that impact for £12 million, that 1.5-year contract, it's a great stopgap for me. So I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. Would I like a different profile and more quality? Absolutely. That's why he's not in the 8, 9, 10 category. But for a person of his experience too, by the way, like that is a very, very good deal. So that's a 7 out of 10 for me.
George, thoughts on Partey's MRI?
He's already running with the team. He's already doing fitness with the team. So.
Okay, the one thing that I'm going to say, I don't want to sound like very arrogant, but as somebody that has a medical background, okay, can we please stop looking at everything that people say? An MRI is the equivalent of asking you to please diagnose, you know, I don't know, maybe can you please diagnose a painting problem by calling a plumber? It's
Yeah.
not the same thing, and you don't use an MRI. Don't listen to what Twitter says. It would have been an X-ray.
I, I heard people saying intercostal damage, George. I thought that was
Yes,
the
yeah.
Jesus
The
Christ.
muscles.
Guys, it would have been an X-ray. It would have been an
It
X-ray.
would have been an X-ray. And look, Thomas Partey is.
You'll be fine.
It's fine. But yeah. So sorry, Kern. Out of 10, really quickly, what do you give the Jorginho signing?
You see, the thing is, anything above this 10 million, and it's like a 3 or a 4. But because of the value, and because of the fact that it's clearly just a backup signing that's short term, maybe six, maybe 18 months at a max. We're moving him on. I'm going to stay with Chris. I think 6 out of 10. I think that's fair. It's not a CT scan, Amelie. The main thing is that we have the backup. We have the European pedigree there to really control games in Europe. I think that's the main thing for me because I don't want Thomas starting in Europa League. And I want to move on to the Lokonga and Marquinhos loans because for me, I'm just going to go. For me, the main issue I have with this Lokonga loan is that we've lost 2 midfielders and replaced with 1. But the other thing for me is he needs time. He needs game time. He needs the confidence. He needs to really get a good half season under his belt.
Sorry, really quickly, have we lost 2 if Emile Smith-Rowe is coming back as an 8?
Yeah, but he'll play more mostly right side of midfielder. Would you not think?
Not with Vieira.
Not with Vieira, unfortunately.
Are you playing Vieira and ESR together
in
with
Europe?
Jorginho?
In Europe, you could. There's no reason not to.
Come on, man. Come on. We're meant to be surrounding with athletes, and we're putting 3 of our smallest midfielders on the same pitch at the same time.
No, we don't have a better. We probably don't have a better athlete in midfield than Emile.
Yeah.
No, but in terms of winning second balls, he's nowhere near as good as Xhaka is.
Well, maybe not at second balls, but there's other aspects of midfield, especially in Europe when you've got a bigger space to contend with. I could definitely see it. I mean, we did it before.
We're gonna. I disagree with that, but if say
Lukanga doesn't win second balls either. Like if you're comparing them between the 2 of them, like Lukanga as a midfielder, when we were using him in the high 8 position.
No, but this is what I was going to get to. Lukanga wasn't playing games in the first place. Like even in Europa, we were playing him. I mean, obviously now we play him if he was to stay, play him as an 8, but he wasn't playing games, and he just doesn't seem. He seemed very disillusioned with the whole.
That's why I asked. Don't you think ESR would take those minutes?
Of course he would, but yeah. I don't like the whole situation with having 3 midfielders that aren't. I need Xhaka in there. I need Xhaka just to have that sort of security with the athleticism there. I understand your point about Emile being. Personally, I would say it would be J5 or J20 as he now is. Xhaka and Emile, and then Vieira right wing for the current situation. I think that dynamic could work quite well. But for me, the whole thing with the Sambi loan is I like the Sambi loan purely because he needs minutes, and it doesn't look like he's going to make it here. And if he's not going to make it here, we need to make sure that he is front and center in the shop window, really pushing to prove himself over a time. And he has a system there with Patrick that will be something that will really suit him. That midfield with Decore, Lokonga, and Eze, that looks disgustingly good. I really like that midfield combination. I feel like Sambi not having that defensive responsibility with Decore behind him, he'll thrive. You'll see more of the Watford at homes and less of the United's aways. You'll see more performances that really let Sambi shine a bit more. So I think it's a great move for him. In terms of Marquinhos, I don't watch Norwich. I'm not going to claim to watch Norwich a lot. But he needs the experience, and a championship loan is the best experience you can get. I think he's shown that he's not a youth prospect. He's too good for that. He needs to be playing games. And if he's to play games, you need to be in the championship. I think there's no better league to prove yourself than in the championship. He'll have to experience defenders, putting duels in, putting tackles in. Sorry, not duels. Winning, basically getting into duels, getting into tackles. Really, he'll have to lose that nervous energy that he has, and getting into a lot of games consecutively is really going to help him. So, both loans I think are good for the player. The only thing is I'm just slightly concerned with the dynamics with the midfield for us specifically, but for the players themselves, both very good loans. Very, very good loans.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I push back. Like I think Emil's an 8, so for me, we haven't lost a body in there, and
I don't think he's a left
legitimately we're yeah, absolutely. I mean, I prefer him on the right, but he can absolutely play as a left 8, and in fact, he'd do it better than Lokonga for me any day of the week. The biggest thing is that you were asking the left 8 to be the final third entry man anyways, and that's what Emil's excellent at. So, I mean, I think individually he's better as a right center midfielder 8, but that doesn't mean that he can't play the role on the left. So, I don't think I see a loss of bodies potentially. I agree. I don't think Lokonga would have played at all. So for me, I've been very clear on Lokonga, even in our first stream with Chris. You know, I always worried about his potential in the ceiling here. I called him Alex Song for all the good and all the bad reasons, and I don't think we needed an Alex Song in the team. So I never believed that he was somebody long term that would even be an option for us in depth. I really felt that we would move him on, and I do think that this is the nail in the coffin too. By the way, when you talk about recruiting Caicedo and Rice as well, the mentality from the Arsenal journalists and like the communication was multiple midfielders. I think the writing's on the wall. I love the loan for what it can do to his value and basically fattening up as a pig to sell later on in the summer. Because right now his value is.
You guys think he performs though? Because watching Palace for as much as I've watched them this season, I don't think.
But would you not agree that all depends on Patrick Vieira's willingness to use him? Because I think
if he uses him, he'll succeed. I really do, but the thing is, I believe in Sambi a lot. It's just I just don't feel like he's been very unlucky this season with the fact that we've needed to play him at 6 and he's not a 6, and that's the main thing for me.
Look, I think he's got good qualities on the ball, but I maintain his intensity will always be an issue for him at the top level, and so he has to be at Serie A or La Liga to really thrive. And even then, again, that's why I always use him in a loan or an exchange with Rafael Leao. Because I think with Milan he would be excellent. But just fundamentally speaking on the loan, I think Palace need a player like him. I agree with your midfield profiles. It's a really good balance of Lokonga, Doucouré, Eze. I think that's got a pretty solid.
I think in transition they get
yeah, for sure.
Swallowed up.
Doucouré can cover big spaces though.
A little bit, but you know what? I think that's been an issue of Paddy's midfield for a while. But the biggest thing is, are you going to be talking about Andre Ayew at right wing? Like some of these are very strange decisions, and I just hope that because Patrick Vieira was so adamant to get Sambi Lokonga in over a loan to Burnley, he's got a plan to use him. You know what I mean? Like I just hope it wasn't a case of a body. If it was a body, then that loan's going to go horribly. But if it's not, and he's going to play, he's going to be pretty decent, and he's going to get exposure in the Premier League. And I don't think he'll be as bad, as in our team, because I think his weaknesses get accentuated. I think at Palace, his weaknesses will shine.
And I don't think we would have sanctioned a loan where he'll be in the same position as he was at Arsenal, where he's just sitting on the bench.
No,
but we did sanction a lot of loans today.
I mean, they're playing Schlupp right now in midfield. I mean, he will play.
Surprisingly, he's actually been decent, but I think Lokonga will have a good time there, and he will fit in with all the, not to be racist, but all the black guys, and they're all going to be black. There's a couple of Congolese guys there, so there'll probably be guys he knows. He probably will know guys like Mateta. So
guys, you know what? Really quickly, I don't want you to really explain it. Overall on the window, you can maybe do like a sentence to it. I'm going to quickly go. I'm going to give this window probably a 7 out of 10. I think we did a lot of really shrewd business ultimately, but we attacked the depth signing, defensive depth, and we got what I wanted and more. We did more than I thought we would. So I don't think we dipped into our budget overall. And I think a lot of the signings that we did are going to surprise people quite a bit. We did a random scouting gem, and we did 2 players that I think people are going to underestimate massively for very shrewd business that will become depth and set us up for a summer transfer window with just the 2 marquees. And everybody in the comments, you know who I'm going to say. He's a carbohydrate and he's a Portuguese man. So I think that sets us up really well for those 2 in the summer. But you too, Chris, overall Arsenal transfer window for January 2023. What do you give it?
So Cedric out, Lokonga out on loan as well, and then
Marquinhos out.
250k for Bellerin. Marquinhos out on loan. Can't believe we got 250k for Bellerin. But yeah, Marquinhos out on loan. 7 out of 10, 6 out of 10. Like, I don't think it's the greatest window, but I definitely don't think it's the worst. We got in a very good left winger, a good centre back just left back, and we missed out on the centre mid we wanted. I don't really see Mudryk as a missing out because I think that was just a opportunity. Similar to Caicedo, but we actually really wanted it. We were going to go at a 6-8 hybrid anyways. So yeah, I think 6, 7 out of 10. So 6.5 out of 10.
Cool. And current mate, how about you?
I mean, I said 7 on Twitter, so I'll say 7 here. Depth signings attained. Just the main thing for me that I'm just not happy with is the way we've attacked some of these targets. If we weren't willing to do marquee signings in January, I don't see the reason of going and not pulling out in terms of value. If you're not willing to take that value, I just don't see it. I know you think that the club have a higher value than us, and they should go and be aggressive, but we weren't aggressive, and we didn't do work. So I can't rate it any higher than 7. But the profiles we have selected will win us the title, in my opinion, and they will put us in good stead to do a double. I do really believe that because of the fact that we have depth in multiple areas now that we didn't have before the window started, which was the main priority with this window. The whole point was we didn't have depth going to the later stages, and we did that. We made that mistake last year, and we haven't this year. Last year we needed a striker, we needed a midfielder, and we didn't do those things, and we did this year. So you can't be too mad at the board for that. But quickly, before we go into like Enzo and all the rest, I did want to ask, because it is something I did put on the tweet, so I do want to ask, how do you think this puts us into stead for the summer? Like, do you think what kind of budget are you thinking? Are the targets that you're looking at? Are the 3 questions? What kind of budget do you think we're getting at? Is there players that you're willing to sell, either loan or at the club? And what kind of targets are you looking at?
I think for me, one, I think where we finish in the league obviously has a
the caveat exists across. Obviously, this is just generally, yeah.
If we win the league, I think we could see us spend up to 200, maybe even more. Even though there's no precedent for that, I just think with us being able or being willing to spend 75 up front on any player, let alone a player like Caicedo, gives me a lot of confidence that we will be willing to spend the monies on the Rices, the Bellinghams.
This is just not true. Like, they won't buy 2 6/8s when they've already bought Enzo for 120 million euros. That's just not true. But
also this number 1 target each time thing has failed. Thing is just like Partey was our number 1. We got Partey, and
Gabriel
Mudryk was not our number 1. Because he's not the first left winger we've tried to sign. So he definitely wasn't Mikel Arteta's left wing number 1. And Caicedo wasn't, only because Elneny was injured. But yeah, I think we have a very good chance of spending up to 200 mil. And I think we could get the players that people really think we could. But that just all depends if we win the league, the Europa. Less so on the club. Because I think the club are very prepared to spend. But what we do obviously just pushes players to, like, we saw Caicedo seeing a potential league, got him posting like I'm leaving before he even got anywhere near a deal agreed. So winning
the board for this opportunity before they
actually winning the league and winning the. You say we do a League Europa double, then we could do a lot. So
and look, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to cut us off, and I'm just going to end on my opinion really, really quick here. We're going to be doing a pod about potentials in the summer down the line. I really think it's early if you don't know what competitions you're in. And I know that's like trivial right now. I think Champions League probably gets guaranteed in March, and we can talk about those things. One thing I do think we do is I think Declan Rice gets agreed early prior to the summer. I really do think that, and I thought that for a while. I think it's been far too early of a brief for there not to be early conversations with Declan Rice. Literally every single journal outlet has talked about it, and I've talked about Declan Rice and Rafael Leao for how long, lads? Like 2 years now. It's been a while. So I think that's what we do this summer. I think we've set ourselves up that we don't have to look for depth this summer. It really is just the marquees. If you wanted to go back for Fresneda, who again I've been talking about in group chats, is the jewel of the window that we seem to have lost this window. I am upset about that one. I really, really like that player. Probably going to go back in for him in the summer. I don't know if we've got the budget for it because his release clause does increase as well. So if you're demanding 2 marquees like that, I don't know how much you have left over. Maybe we do have a little bit. And if we do, I would go for Fresneda. Absolutely. He's a phenomenal, phenomenal player and prospect. So I think that fundamentally we've set ourselves up for a big marquee window. And I've talked about that for so long. I said it before, defensive depth in Jan and go big in the summer. And I haven't changed about that. So I think that's where we're going to go to. And guys, last 10 minutes or so of the stream.
What about your boy Kido? Kido got a loan to Derby.
I mean, it's needed. He wasn't playing in the U23s, and so, or U21s, I should say. I mean, he's too old for it. Like, he needed a loan out. And I think not just Kido. There was another lad, Billy Viger, that also went to
Derby as well. We got a couple loans out. Taylor Foran went as well. We got a couple loans out.
But
the last before we move on to the rest of the window,
really quickly, because we only have
I'm going to be 30 seconds if you just relax. Look, the main thing for me is that we're all here we're all the Declan Rice channel to Arsenal. We've been that way for over a year. The first video we ever did, Chris made sure that he made Rice his first pick for a reason. We have done this for a long time. This is the one deal I think we do get over the line. I mentioned at the start of the pod, we were looking, if you're going to pay marquee money, you're going to want to do it on a challenge that you're going to bank on for 2 contract cycles, George said. And I said, someone that's 24, homegrown, top 3 in his position in the world, not just in Europe. Someone that is great with his fitness, will be able to play multiple positions, either the 8 or the 6. And someone that is very, very moldable and hasn't reached his potential yet. He's not been coached in a possession-based system. He's been coached by David Moyes and Gareth Southgate. Defensively great. You know, we've talked about it for a while, but he is someone that I really do think, if there is a way to set a precedent of saying, look, we will pay for the marquee signing if it's of the correct marquee value, then that has to be the deal. It has to be. And the last thing I'm going to say is Rafael will not be more than Declan Rice. Rafael wants his release clause in his contract to be 70 to 80 million euros, and he's not agreeing the contract because they want to set it 150 million.
I just want to make
the
that
value is less. Exactly. So
60 or 70 million.
The value, the fee for Leao will be less than the price we're going to pay for Casino.
So unfortunately, I'm gonna have to cut you off, mate. Like, we're gonna have to talk. Look, we will have a much longer window about Arsenal before the summer transfer window, but we've got time for that, lads. It is just January. Guys, look, we might as well just end on a debate on Chelsea. I really think ultimately in the window there wasn't much done besides Pedro Porro, Sabitzer, and Weghorst from United is laughable, but we'll leave that. Chelsea
Porro was Spurs.
I said Porro.
Who do you think's had the before we get it, just quickly, who's had the worst window? For me, it's Everton. I think that's got to be the worst window out of all the clubs.
Yeah, potentially, or Southampton. They've lost quite a bit. Did they end up getting Solomona in the end? I don't know if they.
I think so.
I know they bid for him.
I think they got him. I'm not. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure they got him.
Yeah, if they got him, then it's definitely Everton. But outside that, I really think that United have done poorly in the window. I don't know why their fans are so excited about it. Really, I thought Wout Weghorst. Look, I know he's your guy, Curran, but like that was such a poor quality signing that you're not going to be bragging about that. And that Liverpool's a great shout. Actually, they haven't done anything in the window, and they needed something. They really should have gone for somebody like Yunus Musa. I totally forgot about them. Actually, Poole would actually probably be my biggest miss of the window. They could have even done for not Yunus Musa. I don't know why they didn't go for Castado.
With Sulemana, they got, sorry to cut you off, but with Sulemana, Southampton got a 2-hour extension to get the documents filled.
Yeah, no. So I think probably Poole, but ultimately I wanted to have a talk about Chelsea. Because I know it's going to
I
last
mean,
5 minutes.
I don't want to do another David Luiz moment here. I don't want to do this, but I will say that Duncan Castles has just reported that the deadline for Chelsea's contracts with Enzo Fernandez may not go through. I don't know if that's the truth, but I'm just going to say that's what's being reported.
So I think, look, ultimately for Chelsea's window, guys, you're talking about £300 million spent here.
What about Liverpool?
I'm seeing a lot of praise for this amortization loophole by signing long-term contracts, but there's a reason that football has never done the baseball route, and that's because it's a huge risk. It may work in a financial fair play sense, but how do you know that the player reaches the potential? And when they do, and they have the 6-year contract on the books, how do you let go of a poorly performing player that hasn't reached the heights? Very, very difficult. And so when you talk about it, I guess Ziyech to PSG is also potentially off too. This could be a really big nightmare for them in terms of the squad. I don't know their exact squad total, but they have got an insane amount of people on their books at this point right now. And when you have a look at their window, part of the frustration I would have is, on one hand, I like a lot of the prospects that they've done. Batshuayi, I am a long-time Batshuayi shouter. I think he's going to be excellent with a really top ceiling. Malo Gusto is an excellent signing. I think Fofana is also a very good signing. But in terms of some of the other ones, you've got I don't even know if you can really count this, but they've got Nkunku. That's been a deal that's been agreed as well. They got Mudryk. They got Felix in on loan. So I don't really count Felix in the long-term projections. And then, of course, Enzo, as well as the one Brazilian lad. Guys, what do you think of their window in general? Because I'm going to really quickly go. They spent £300 million, and I don't think they significantly improved the biggest holes in their team, which remained, for me, center back, goalkeeper, as well as an addition in midfield and somebody between the lines as well. Still lack all of those things despite £300 million spent, almost £600 million across 2 windows. It's just factual. You won't be able to continue that type of spend.
Can we just say that we don't know if it goes through yet? That's all I'm going to say. I don't
know
say
if
it's
what goes through.
Let's assume Enzo goes through, because if it doesn't, we can laugh, and that's easy to do for a conclusion. But let's assume it goes through. You're talking about a player who is limited. Like when I look at Enzo Fernandez, okay, he is not worth 120.
I think if there wasn't a World Cup, he probably gets bought for half the price.
100%. And and it's convinced me that people don't watch him. Look, he's got a brilliant passing.
Even in the World Cup, I don't think he was as great as people think he was. I think obviously his addition marked the start for Argentina winning, and he was necessary. So he is a very good player, but I don't think he's worth 120 million. As George said, he doesn't play more than one position, and I think without a Kante type player in midfield, he lacks something. He doesn't look as good. He doesn't look as good with a destroyer like the Paul was for him. He doesn't look as good without someone to clean up in duels like the Paul and McAllister did for him. Without someone like Kante, he won't look like 100 million player, or the Premier League record signing is probably one of the biggest.
Gallardo put him in a pivot with very tight distances in a 4-4-2.
With Enzo Perez sometimes as well. So
yeah, and he did that because he couldn't trust him in big spaces in transition. But guys, I hate to break it to you, what is Chelsea as a team right now? A transition team. It's going to be a very difficult start. So I think for me, look, you got to praise the idea that Chelsea and as an ownership have gone in and got their players. I can't say that's bad. I think they've overpaid massively. I think that the way they've acted in this window has huge ramifications for how clubs are going to deal with them in the future. They're just going to say, "Give me my money."
Exactly. That's what I was saying earlier. What can you do? They can't go back anymore.
No.
Madueke, Mudryk, Felix, all these signs of you guys. Obviously, Fernandez. All these signs of you guys matching the price without trying to the negotiation they did was the structure of the deal, not the price.
Yeah.
And with Modric, they just immediately came in and put up 70 plus up front. So they've put a lot of money on the table for players. And obviously some of them are some quality players. But for me personally, having Felix and Havertz and Nkunku doesn't make much sense. With Mount dwindling, with Ziyech not guaranteed to go because probably apparently they didn't get the documents in on time.
No, it's off. It's off. It's completely off.
Yeah, see, with Oba there, who you don't want on the books anymore, who doesn't start anymore. With Broja there, who's dwindling as well because of injuries. You have now Sterling, Madueke, Ziyech at right wing / left wing. Mount has played on the wing as well, so there's not really a clear pattern of who's going to be there, who's not going to be there, and what they want to do in midfield, where they want to go in the future. Like as soon as Reece James got injured, they switched to a 3. Reece James needs to come back. Malo Gusto came in.
He's not staying there at the time.
We didn't speak about that. So like they've got a lot of things they need to do, a lot of players, but I just think, yeah, signing players is all good and well, but I don't think there seems to be a very consistent plan at the club. But they have got their players and you can't complain. A lot of people are saying it's a 10-10 window for them. For me, it's a 10-10 window for Bowley's profile, like to the fans. I don't think it's a 10-10 window for the moves they made.
It gets the fans on side.
Yeah, I don't think
new ownership. You want to get the
done better to get the fans on side, but I don't think they spent efficiently at all. Like I don't think their ROI on this window will be good at all. I think they will lose a lot of money in this window.
Oddly, their prospects is probably going to be the ones that save them. Like Malo Gusto, again, but it's stupid. Batshuayi and Malo Gusto, probably the best deals that they've had in their window, have their best prospects in Reece James and Levi Colwill. And so when I have a look at it, it's insane business to me.
Even Fofana.
Yeah, and Fofana as well. But again, their best prospects, they've got people. And I think Madueke, it's a lot of money for a person of his injury history, by the way. I don't think he's amassed more than 35 league games in the last 2 years. But it's a player I believe in. It's a player that is a strong player as well. So they did do some good deals. It's just I thought it was a gross negligent waste of money, I'll be honest. They did not address their holes. They need not just one keeper, but probably 2, if we're being very fair.
Kante hasn't played 30 games since 2019. So.
Who is the 6th?
They need another midfielder. We know this, but they also, not only that, they need somebody between the lines, guys. Like I keep saying this about Chelsea. They have no presence between the lines. And look, maybe if you're telling me that Mudryk and Nkunku is somebody that they hope to add that down the future, okay, fair play. But I don't think that you can continue this false 9 business and how they've been attempting to use Havertz, but with Nkunku. I think it's going to work really, really poorly. And that's really what he's setting himself up to. Because how do you play with Mudryk?
The plan is probably Nkunku to drop and have Mudryk attack the left channel, isn't it?
No, but they don't have a striker to roam the box or stay in the box.
They'll have to be able to realize they still kept Sterling. They still kept Koulibaly.
Exactly, I mentioned all that. Aubameyang sits on the bench and comes on. Like Lewis Hall has been introduced to left centre mid. They just got a lot of mess.
But guys, here. So one thing that I really want to destroy this myth. Okay, look, people talking about amortization over a long period, it still impacts your bottom line because you're entering seasons with like a negative
minus. Yeah, you have to make money.
Net spend where you have to make money. And so the entire point of this has putting them on long-term contracts preserve their value, or are you guaranteeing that they're going to stay at that money? Because if they don't,
or are you going to, sorry to cut you off, but are you guaranteeing you're going to earn from winning? So you have to win to earn extra.
And also it stops you from putting additional value into the squad in positions that you desperately need, because you're always starting off at a negative net spend every single year.
This is lining up to be devastation, and I'm going to be using the Chelsea example in all of my future timeline because I really think that they've just shown you what not to do. And for spending 600 million, the one question I wanted to ask everybody, just really quickly, both in the comments right now, is after spending 300 million pounds on a window, what is the expectations for Chelsea despite being 8? Are you guys really telling me that that's a write-off, or
they have to get
top 4?
They have to. It's not possible otherwise.
Well, and they've also spent in total now between the summer and January, they've spent 600 million pounds. Are you telling me that's not a top 4 demand minimum? I don't understand. At the same time, people praise Chelsea for their no-nonsense approach, but then hold them to zero standards. So for me, I don't understand it. Look, I'm happy. It's a rival that for me is in disarray, and I don't think that they're going to perform well. But Look, guys, to wrap it up, I wanted to do for you guys, what is the biggest miss of the window, and what is your biggest hit of the window? Nothing huge in terms of explanation, please, because
Miss like the worst signing or the biggest miss.
yeah. Like, what do you think is going to perform the worst for the worst value, and then what do you think was like one of the best values in the window?
That's a great question.
I think I'll go first. The worst is Felix. I really do. I think for £20 million as a loan fee with no buy option, he's already missed a month. Like, you're not going to get a lot of games out of him. Yeah, I think that's pretty bad. And the best, I don't know. There's not been a lot of really. I don't want to say an Arsenal. I don't want to say Trossard. Like, part of me wants to go Trossard, but like, I think Badia Shield's a very good deal. I think for that value, you're getting a really good centre back. Yeah, I'm gonna go Badia Shield. I think Badia Shield is a very good deal. I think it's probably the best deal they did in that whole window, as it were. Or maybe Sulemana, actually, if that goes through. Sulemana. I'll go with Sulemana. Sulemana is going to do great for Southampton.
Excellent, my boy. I think for me, no, I'm going to go Trossard. I think it's a phenomenal deal for the price. £21 million is excellent. I really see that as being a hit. And I've already said I think he's going to start or he's going to push for a starting position. But in terms of the worst signing that I've seen, it's for me, it's Enzo. I've already talked about it. He's not worth 120 million euros. I don't know if there's been a worse overspend. One of the worst signings for me is Wout Weghorst. I don't believe that he's a quality signing, and I don't think he's going to push them to really contention in the top four. But it was only a couple £1 million, so you can't really throw your hands up in arms about that. But Enzo Fernandez for that amount of money, and by the way, all in one go, the 121 million pounds. For me,
yeah, but they'll use the company. They'll obviously the interest.
But he's so poor. But I'm not going to raise my hands up in it. So I think I'm going to go.
I mean, they'll factor the deal. They'll use a release clause company and factor the deal and play it in installments. But no matter how you slice it, it's gonna be. I mean, the contract's till 2031, and we still don't know if it goes through. I mean, I think it does. I'm going to say that.
If not, then I'll go with Gakpo. If not, say it doesn't go through.
Well, Gakpo's a great shout.
Gakpo is a very.
Oh, that was mine.
Gakpo is somebody that I don't know is going to do very well. But anyways, Chris, I wanted to give you a chance to.
I think personally for a player, I think Doherty getting out of his deal to go to Atletico is probably great for him. Second time Tottenham have lost the right back to Atletico. But I think, yeah, Gakpo is the worst. I think he's performed very poorly. He's been playing striker and left wing. He won't start when the players come back from injury, and he doesn't really fit the type. He's not really similar. He's not really similar to the other striker and left wing they have. But I think him not performing isn't really his fault.
No, because there's no
talent ID has been very poor, and he's not been getting players who have been very similar to the ones he has. So he's translating his squad very poorly, and he's developing his squad as the years go by very differently to the one he had, but asking them for the same things, which I think is very poor. And then best, I was going to say Trossard. Yeah, Trossard, I think, is the best value for money deal probably in the league. I do think, I'm not sure about this, like, Keylor Navas deal, don't like to Nottingham Forest. I think, obviously, that's a very good shot stopper, but
it better be.
What's happening with Dean Henderson? Is he still going to play? I think Mislav Orsic is a very good deal for 8 mil for Southampton. Another shoot-on-side attacker, a very experienced Champions League player who can get you a lot of shots on goal. Has he been good? Not really. But he can. I think Danjuma to Tottenham. He's not really similar to what they have, but I think he's a good signing. But yeah, I think Gakpo was the worst.
Yeah, and look, guys.
Yeah,
so that kind of wraps up the window, guys. Sorry that we went a little bit longer, but hopefully you guys enjoyed it. We have some more content for you guys coming up. Don't worry. Soon what we're going to do is we're going to probably do a pod talking about the loans, namely the big ones that we've sent out, and now we're going to add Sambi and Marquinhos to that. But guys, in the comments, please let us know about some content that you guys want us to talk about. Everybody's talking title race. We will have a big title race pod in March. That I will promise everybody. That has been my benchmark for what I need to see. So I can't offer my opinion until I see what I see in March. So, but we will have one, and we will be doing that in March. But guys, thank you so much, everybody, for your engagement. It's been a long one. We hope you guys enjoyed it. So, guys, before everybody leaves, you guys could hit a like on the channel. I really appreciate it. And it really helps us. But thank you so much for everybody joining us. We're glad that hopefully everybody was calmed a bit. But guys, everybody on the socials, make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe. You hit the bell for notifications to know when, in fact, we do upload. Find me on the socials at GeorgeV_AFC. Of course, Chris at CKFTBL and Curran's at CurranBOP. And we're here, Ball Over Passion, here on YouTube. We're at BOP Footy on the Twitter. So, guys, thank you so much for everything. And we will be back with you guys for content, I guess, with Everton and a preview coming up very soon for our game coming up this weekend. So cheers, everybody, and we'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.